As wedding professionals, we always love it when we see the MacFarlands Party Rentals truck arriving on site at our events. We know that our couples are going to be fully taken care of, our event setups are going to be fully executed, and our weddings are just going to have something, a little extra special. We love working with our friends here at MacFarlands, and I know that they would love to help you out. Feel free to visit MacFarlands and reach out for all your wedding and event rental needs. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Creative Hustle Podcast. It might be Monday morning for you or anytime throughout the week, but we are just so grateful that you are here listening or viewing our podcast. And you might notice that we're in a little bit of a different location today. We are so excited to be filming on location the Creative Hustle Podcast at MacFarlands Events, which will tell you lots more about why we're here later. But I am so excited. We're going to actually get into the meat, the bones of our actual businesses, wedding season, being a wedding vendor, and all of the things with regards to navigating your business as a wedding professional here on the East Coast. So thank you for joining us, and let's get into it. Okay, girls. So up until this point, we have kind of been dancing around this topic of being wedding professionals. We've really wanted to make the Creative Hustle Podcast not just for those in the wedding industry, but for all small businesses navigating, success on the East Coast. But I think it's time that we actually go there and we finally talk about our businesses. We talk about working in the wedding industry. And as we know, a lot of our listeners and viewers are wedding professionals themselves. So what better time than sitting here at MacFarlands Events to talk about our trade?
I know, I'm kind of excited because we totally have been just dancing around the subject. Yeah. You know what? I'm a wedding videographer.
Exactly.
So are you. You're a wedding planner.
I'm a wedding planner.
I also
loud and
think
proud.
that there's things that, other industries can pull from wedding industry partners or, wedding industry businesses.
Yeah.
So, that's good. I'm sure that any business could pull from this, or you could even dabble your business into the wedding world. The thing we always say is people are always going to be getting married. So If you can tailor one of your services to a wedding client, do it.
You're golden. So we've prepared a few questions and we're just going to bounce them back and forth for each other. But Jane, my first questions for you is, what exactly does wedding season in Atlantic Canada look like?
So in Atlantic Canada, it is typically, I would say May till October, and almost everyone always just wants to get married on a Saturday. I would say 98% of our weddings are on Saturdays. So if you're a wedding vendor, you know the struggle, just kiss your Saturdays goodbye. Occasionally there's a Friday, sometimes a Sunday of a long weekend, but yeah, I would definitely say it's always on a Saturday.
Or double booked.
Or double booked Friday, Saturday. We haven't done a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Have you ever done that?
I've definitely done a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
How do you survive?
Not personally, but the crew has done it.
Yeah.
So I've totally pulled a bunch of doubles, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's we just can't say no. We live in this province where you have to, make hay while the sun shines. So, hey, if I can do 2 weddings on the same weekend that I'm typically doing one, why not? Let's go for it.
And I think we did a double last year.
Yeah, a Friday, Saturday.
So we did a Friday, Saturday. I was deathly ill.
She was not well.
No,
not well. And then we had booked so early the second one, not knowing that it was a 2-hour drive. So on the way home, we cranked the AC. We had Beyonce going.
We just
I was
at the
Jane,
top of our
please
lungs.
don't try this at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were so exhausted. But Caitlin said, make hay while the sun shines. You have to do what you have to do.
And we survived and we made the money.
You survive, you get that money, and then you sleep in the winter.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Get after it.
So a question that we get often, probably mostly from family members, but a lot of people want to know, how can you possibly make a living off of working, 4 to 6 months, or in some cases, 3 months, June, July, August.
My favorite question is, so what do you do in the winter? I continue
work.
working
Yeah.
on my business in the winter. Yeah, so it's really important that, in working in such a seasonal business, that you do think about that. So we have to have a lot of foresight and a lot of planning with regards to how we structure our pricing and our services. I take larger deposits and then installment payments throughout the course of working with one of my clients, rather than just a small deposit up front and then all of the balance at the end or the day before the wedding, because that allows me to just have much better cash flow throughout the entire season or throughout the entire year, rather than just trying to manage one big chunk of change to get you through the entire year.
And I feel like that's something that we could look at, because I feel like, so what's our deposit? 25%?
25, yeah.
So at the signing of a contract, and then it's our full payment is 7 days before. But it's it's nice to get all that money 7 days before, but I would also like to get paid
how are you surviving
in
year?
January or in March.
It's also really important as a wedding industry professional to budget really, really well.
Exactly.
So, take what you make in the summer, maybe even do a spreadsheet and say okay, I know I'm going to need X amount for rent this year, X amount for groceries. I know it sucks. Most people in the wedding industry are creatives and not mathematicians, and could not care less about that stuff, but it's so helpful. And that's something that I took on this year, is budgeting and knowing, where everything is going.
Yep.
And as much as I hate it, trust me, I hate it. It's just super helpful.
Exactly.
Another thing that you could do is kind of pull from your services. So with Jane and I, we have raw footage that we offer to our couples after our initial package. So in the middle of the winter, Jane and I will approach our couples and say, just to let you know, we are going to let you know on your anniversary, we're going to remove your raw files from our storage space, but we just wanted to put it in your ear and let you know, this is how much it costs. And most of the time, people want that footage. So it also is really great around Christmas, because a lot of people, I would say the better part of the people who do purchase raw footage will get it as a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Christmas, that's a time that nobody is spending.
So
I know.
do you
Right?
think there's anything that you could pull in your services?
Perhaps, but I find that my season works out really well, because the fall is, actually one of our slower seasons. We don't have all of our clients on the books yet.
And bigger
But
deposits.
that's booking season, so I always up my deposit in the fall. So where I don't have as many installment payments going in the fall, I take a larger deposit, and that helps to sort of carry me through the slower months. Then in the winter, when things are picking back up with our installment payments, then I go back to, a lesser deposit. So I just I know now, after so many years, come late November until January 1, people aren't booking. They're spending all of their dollars on Christmas, and they're just going to wait. They're going to wait until the new year to actually confirm, place those deposits. So I just balance it out, and I know that, I've got a big summer. I've got to put some aside for the slow months. I've got to take larger deposits in the fall, and then I just got to ride the wave into the new year, and then we're in booking season, and it's just all uphill from there.
It's raining money.
So I guess can you kind of can you kind of I know you've said this before, can you walk us through the deposits that you do and stuff?
So for us, we do 4 payments. So we take a 25% deposit upon booking, 25% at the 6-month mark, 3-month mark, and then 2 weeks in advance of the wedding. So that's another thing that a lot of couples and families will question on, is why do vendors need to be paid in full in advance of the wedding day? I think, in things like construction and trade and everywhere else you go, you pay after the service has been completed. But when it comes to wedding professionals, we can't take our work back. So if I were to work a wedding day and, 75% of our bill was still left owing the day after the wedding or 2 weeks later, what entices the client to actually go ahead and close off that bill?
That's a really great way to put it. We can't take our work
Can't
back.
take our work back.
I really love that.
Yeah. It came from my dad, because he was like, okay,
Genius, Steve
I
Hipson.
can, Steve Hipson. He was like, if someone doesn't pay, I can just go and rip up that lawn in the middle of the night, and the grass is mine, right? What is he going to do with it? I don't know, but at least if they didn't pay for it, he can get it back, but we can't take our work back. You guys are in a little bit of a different position because you can't hold on to your footage.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't take that day back. You can't resell that Saturday, right? It's just a loss.
And the bulk of the work is editing, but I mean, standing on your feet for 13 hours,
that's not fun.
That's not fun.
Yeah. And you could have had another paying client.
Exactly.
So another unique thing about working in the wedding industry is I feel like people just come out of the woodwork and say that they're professionals. So, like, how does a vendor... See, we've all had stories.
Here we go. I'm just thinking of all the, like,
open the door.
basement videographers who, like, have screwed clients over. I can't tell you guys how many, like, emails we've gotten inquiries saying, like, this person, like, took my money and ran.
I think videography is, like, the scammiest
of
all
It's so
the
true.
wedding services.
And I don't know why.
I know.
I think it's because it's not as mainstream. So there's like very little professional videographers and videography businesses in the province. So it's easy. And it's also an expensive service because it takes so much time and effort and care.
Yes.
So people are going to look for the cheap, $500 works in their bedroom type of videographers who aren't registered, who can't be tracked.
I also think that with videography, it's something that everyone thinks that they can do. Everyone's
You're
like,
right.
oh, it's a video. Like, how hard can it be? So I feel like that's why so many just like random sketchy people do it.
Yeah.
So what are some things that like actual legit vendors can do to make...
how do you set them apart?
Yeah, you've got to. So I think us as vendors, and for everyone listening who's quite likely a vendor, you need to like prove to your clients just how seriously you do take your business. So, I know that Instagram is great, and I know that you can have a beautiful portfolio and you can spend all of your time on Instagram, but you should also have a website. Like Instagram, Facebook, social media is not enough for someone to actually like buy into your business.
That's the first thing you told us before we started our business was have a website.
Have a website.
Before we even had a name, like get your website prepped.
I feel like a website just like proves to a potential customer, I take my business very seriously and here's my online portfolio, rather than just doing what's easy and free, which is using social media. Now, don't get me wrong, we have to do both, and we've talked about that so many times, but by having a website, it just, again, like proves to someone like, we are legitimate, we're here to stay, we'll see you through all of those things.
It's also hard to recommend a vendor in good faith to a client that like, oh, here's this vendor, they're great, here's their Instagram page.
Right.
How does that reflect on
as a wedding
you?
planner, I won't do it. I can't do it. I can't be like, every time that I'm recommending a vendor to a client, I'm giving them the website that they can click through and they can look on there. And then, of course, they're going to make their way through to their social media account of their choosing. But if that vendor doesn't have a website, they're not getting the recommendation. It's just not happening. So I think also further to that point is your website better look good. It needs to be a reflection of your brand and of the work that you're trying to put out there.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
So I have a question for you, Katie, because I feel like you would deal with this much more than we would. So we all know that weddings are just like, people are so freaking emotional on that day, and there's so many emotions.
Oh my gosh.
So how do you navigate like the bride's emotion, groom, the mother of the bride? Like, how do you handle that?
Oh my gosh, there's so many emotions. So my biggest motto is you can care but not carry. So, you're getting married and you've hired me as your wedding planner. I've hired you as my videographers. When I get to you, I'm talking about my wedding and I'm talking about what I hope that you're going to do for me for my wedding. But the trigger is everything that's going on behind the scenes. So we're in a professional setting when we're working with our clients, but for them, their wedding is so personal. Everything is emotional. Everything's personal. So what I've found and what I've come to realize over the years is that when people come to me, it's like, they're very stressed out about things that I'm like, calm down. Like, there is no need for you to be stressing about this. But what's happening is their stresses from the things they cannot control, like fighting with their fiance over the budget, or their bridesmaids not getting along, or their bachelor or bachelorette party not being exactly how they wanted it to be. They can't control that, right? Because you can't control what goes on with your family and friends. But what you can control is the little nitty-gritty details. And that's what it sort of gets taken out on. So like all of the stress and all of the emotion is projected onto us as the professionals. So we'll get panicky emails in the middle of the night. We'll get girls texting us. We'll get girls crying in our meetings with us. And I used to internalize it. And I used to go home and be like, oh my gosh, like, am I not doing enough? Like, is it me? Am I causing all of this drama and all of this stress in their life? And then I realized, like, no, I'm only like one very minuscule piece of this puzzle, and it's actually what they've got going on that they're not sharing with me, because this is so emotionally charged that all of these emotions are coming out.
So what are the boundaries then that you set with brides so that you don't carry? Because I know that you spend so much time and you develop these really special relationships with brides and grooms. And I'm sure there are other industry professionals who do as well, even like down to designing stationery. Like, to somebody doing the stationery, it's just, another day in the life. But to them, it's their heart and soul in this paper.
Yep.
So what are some things you can do?
When you said boundaries, I was like, wow, do I have boundaries? I don't think I do have boundaries. No. And I think that's something that like we've opted to work in this world, right? Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to not get personal with my clients, I'd go work in the corporate world full time.
Right.
Or I'd work for one of the hotels, or I'd do something else. But I've opted to be a wedding planner, which means people are welcoming me into their home, they're welcoming me into their personal lives, and the greater the personal relationship that I can develop with my couples and their families, the better my experience with them, and the better the experience that they have with me and our company as well. So I honestly believe that if we're going to work in this industry, like, we're going to have very little boundaries. Mm-hmm. Like, one of you was like pushing Brittany's breasts into her dress.
I
right?
had to but she was wearing this like tight dress around her boobs, and her boobs were kind of squished down, and she was like, she couldn't put her hand in, and I was like, I'll do it. So
exactly.
I just like scooped her boob.
Scoop the boob. Exactly. Like, this is, I think, the world that we've opted to work in, and I prefer it. Like, I love it. I spent Saturday driving to Pictou to meet with a couple at their cottage property where their wedding's taking place. And on the way there, I was kind of like, oh, it's Saturday. But then when I got there, they had a barbecue for me. We sat out on their deck. We talked. They asked me about me and my family. I was like, this is my job right now. They're paying me good money
totally
to do this and to be there. So
it's like you're like a best friend / like therapist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One time I had a bride give me a necklace on the morning of her wedding. She hadn't chosen a maid of honor because she couldn't between her girls, but the necklace had engraved on it HMOH for honorary maid of honor. Yeah. I know, I still have it.
I love
it
that.
makes me so happy.
Well, I mean, like, we have to think, like, this is one of the most special days of their lives. Yeah. And if we had boundaries, we wouldn't be approachable. And who wants to work with somebody who's just all business?
You two are following them around all day. You're with them as much as their bridal party is. Like, that's
not
important.
More.
They have to enjoy you.
Yeah.
Like you, enjoy your company, right? To welcome you into such a personal space. All right, so question for you two, because we all deal with this. People looking to negotiate the cost of our services. How do you handle it?
I admire people who are like, my price is my price and that's it. Like, good for them. Mm-hmm. But I just feel if it's a date that maybe is coming up close and we like don't have anything, I will adjust. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think like our kind of general rule of thumb is if we're in peak wedding season and it's a Saturday, we are going to find somebody who will pay full price for that date. So sorry. We'll always send a little note. If we have somebody come on board or if anything opens up, we'll come back around to it. So if it's a date that they don't want to pay and they want to negotiate, we'll say, no, sorry, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If by the time the date rolls around and we remember that in the back of our minds, or we're going through our emails and we find that, we could say, well, why don't we approach that person and offer them, a smaller package for a smaller price, and we'll send our associate videographer out there.
Yeah, so we'll just do the ceremony and just do the speeches, or speeches and ceremony, or raw, give them a few different price points with a few different packages to choose from, because it's better to make some money than no money.
I agree.
If it's worth your time.
I think that's a really good approach. I used to get really miffed when people asked, to negotiate, or asked if there was, another service offering, or if they could save the tax by paying cash, and all of those things. And now I'm totally cool with it. Just like you said, long weekends pass, no, we're going to get booked. Someone's going to pay full price and book our largest package. Saturdays from June to September, no, as well, not likely. Now, if you're getting married on a Tuesday, if you're getting married in January, February, March, if it's, something unique, if it's 6 people and it's just a dinner, I think always ask.
Yeah.
And I've kind of, gotten over that myself now. So now if I'm sort of teetering on something, it's why not just ask? The worst that someone could say is no. Mm-hmm. And then I think you just have to get confident in saying no. Say no in a polite, graceful way. No, I'm sorry. We've set our pricing for this weekend, and that's what it is.
Yeah. Wishing you all the best in your wedding.
Exactly.
I think when we started, we wouldn't say no to any money, and we would just say, okay, we will make this work no matter what. We're never going to turn away a client. Sometimes you just have to do that when you start a business. You need the work and the portfolio pieces, but now we've come to a place in our business where we don't have to do that. I think if you're in the wedding industry, really cherish those Saturdays in peak season, live for them. You will get booked.
Don't give in.
Don't give in. So let's wrap this up with a question. What should couples who are hiring look for in their vendors?
Yeah, so we harbored on the website, but even further than that, reviews. Mm-hmm. So I think reviews are really important, and there's something that as a professional, they're kind of scary to ask for. Last year, we sent out an email to every single one of our brides asking if they would leave us a Google review.
I'd be so scared to do that.
I was so scared. I literally held my breath and clicked send on the email.
Yeah, Kristen and I, whenever we send a scary email, we do a little prayer.
Please God, let this
in tripods we trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was... If 7 years in it, when it was the first time that we ever asked our couples to leave us a review online. Our couples always send us thank you cards. They send us gifts. They give us cards. They do all of the nicest things for us following their wedding day. But no one ever thinks to leave a review unless it's a nasty review. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So last year at the end of the wedding season, we did it in December, so we could wish everyone a Merry Christmas and be their Christmas gift to us. We asked them to leave us reviews, and we ended up with 26 glowing Google reviews. You should go read them sometime. They're really
That's
beautiful.
What we'll do.
Yeah, do that in your spare time.
Yeah.
So I think, whether it's reviews online or if the company doesn't have any online reviews, just asking. I could easily bring someone to our office, open up our box of cards where they keep them, and I know you guys keep your cards as well, and they could just fish through and they could read them for themselves.
Something else you could do, what Jane and I did was we popped in 4 reviews in our service guide.
Brilliant.
So if you just put that in front of the client right away, they have to see it. It would also make sense to if a client writes back and saying I love it. Oh, great. Here's the link for a review. We would love to hear from you. That's a good idea.
Exactly. And people they love you. You helped them create the most magical thing to capture their wedding day. They will do it for you, but you have to ask.
Totally.
Another big thing is word of mouth, especially
here in Atlantic provinces.
It's everything.
Everything.
And also another thing that you could do is you could go to your caterer and be oh, do you know any photographers? And usually we're all friends.
Look in the tags on Instagram. MacFarlands. If you go to Elegant Productions Instagram page and look at their tag stuff, you'll see the beautiful cutlery and the charger plates and everything.
Yeah, you'll see who we work with and who we don't work with.
Exactly.
And it's just as easy as that to get recommendations from any of your vendors. We all know each other, and we have our I like to say preferred vendors, but we have our people who, if you hire me, I'm going to recommend the two of you, and I'm going to recommend MacFarlands because I know all of these companies are going to offer my client the exact same level of service that, I'm looking to get, that I'm willing to offer them. And then it just elevates the experience from one vendor to the next to the next.
Exactly.
Another thing is quality of product or service. So really looking at what you're getting and their previous work. I mean, you could easily go to our website and see all of our wedding videos. You see the type of quality that we put into that, how many years we've been in business, again, reviews. I mean, it's not hard to go through a mental checklist of things that you want to see in your vendors and things that you don't.
Exactly. We are so excited to be filming today's episode of the Creative Hustle podcast here at our friends MacFarlands Events. When it comes to your wedding, corporate event, social celebration, backyard barbecue, events from as big as possible to as teeny tiny, MacFarlands has got you covered. So if you are a wedding professional or someone who is eager to get into this wonderful world of weddings, we would love to hear from you. Hit us up on Instagram at the Creative Hustle Podcast. Slide into our DMs and tell us all of your burning questions about weddings. We'd love to answer them for you. We would love if you would subscribe to us on iTunes, follow us on SoundCloud, subscribe to us on YouTube, and just keep up with us like literally all over the place. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and we will be back at you next week with another episode of the Creative Hustle Podcast.